Hey there, I'm Alex McKenzie, one of the 3D animators here at Make. Today I want to show you a bit of what the 3D animation process looks like on the inside, how we use the core principles of animation to make our CGI characters just as appealing as if they were 2D ones, and some of the special tools we 3D animators get to use to bring a character to life. Surprisingly, there's a lot of crossover in the techniques of both styles. Let's jump on in. This is Jordan Powers, another awesome artist in our 3D animation department. Today we're going to take a peek at how she animates Clink, a member of the trio of knights in our micro short series, BraveHurts. Her current task is to animate Clink digging a hole. Why he's doing it in full plate armor, don't ask. The only reference she's given to start is a hand-drawn animatic, which is essentially a storyboard in video form, to get a feel for the character's timing, pose, and position within the frame. You can see here that she's working in a split screen view, which allows her to freely work in the right-hand viewport, zooming and rotating as needed, while keeping the left-hand viewport locked in the perspective we'll see in the final product. When you're working with hundreds of virtual buttons, knobs, and controllers, it's really easy to lose sight of your end goal, which is creating a readable and appealing shot, unless you're constantly working with that final image in mind. Here, she takes that idea a step further and screenshots her character in the left-hand viewport, drawing over the top of him to get a better idea of how the pose should look. Remember how I said there's a lot of crossover between styles? This is one of those times. By using her 2D brain, Jordan can make decisions about how to pose Clink's arms and body for the nicest looking silhouette without getting bogged down by the infinite number of angles we can see him from in 3D. Oh geez, especially that one. You might notice, as Jordan clicks and drags Clink's body parts to animate him, some parts move a little differently than others. Unlike in 2D animation, where the artists can draw the exact pose that's in their mind for every frame, 3D artists are limited, unfortunately, by our characters' rigs, the sets of virtual controllers and handles that determine where and how much they can bend, stretch, and move. One important aspect of these character rigs is what body parts are leading and which are following. What does that mean? Well, in some cases, like with fingers or tails, you want the end of the appendage furthest from the body to follow the part at the base. You can see here how Jordan bends the knuckles at the base of the fingers, and then the joints closer to the tip follow along. Then she bends the next knuckle down, and so on. On the flip side, sometimes you want to control the furthest part of an extremity and have it stay put when the rest of the body moves, giving you finer control over what that end part is doing. This is really useful for feet. It allows them to remain planted firmly on the ground with each step as a character walks, rather than sliding along with the rest of the body. The decision of whether an appendage should lead or follow varies the most when animating arms and hands. In this case, Clink's hands are leading and the rest of him is following. This is because the motion of digging with the shovel is the primary action being performed, and the rest of Clink's body is just following behind it. Jordan can animate his hands driving the shovel into the dirt exactly where she wants, then scoop it upward in a carefully considered arc. Then the computer makes the elbows automatically stretch and bend to a believable position between the hands and shoulders, and Jordan can tweak it from there to create the perfect pose on every frame. Can you dig it? Oof. I'm sorry. One last core principle of animation that we use in both the 2D and 3D animation process is timing. But in 3D, we have a couple of unique techniques in our tool belt that help streamline the process of achieving the crisp, buttery smooth timing that we're looking for. A lot of them are done with this little window that lets you visualize the movement of something over time in the form of a line graph. You might wonder why we bother with using a graph like this instead of simply setting keyframes throughout the timeline and calling it a day. Well, one reason is that this little window lets you duplicate and tweak the positions of one controller over the course of the full shot all at once. Like here, Jordan wants to add some vertical motion in Clink's hips with each stroke of the shovel. After setting the initial high and low points, she can copy and paste those positions across the duration of the whole shot, and then visualize the speed and intensity of that movement on this blue line. By dragging the line, she can tweak the entire motion a bit higher or a bit lower, or even edit those keyframe points individually to quickly add some variation to the motion without having to scrub through the entire timeline. This window is also useful for efficiently adding follow-through and overlapping action. At the moment, Clink's body and armor pieces all move at the same time, making him look stiff and mechanical. But by selecting several controllers at once and delaying their keyframes bit by bit, selecting fewer and fewer controllers each time, Jordan works her way up the body towards the head, and then the helmet and the feathers at the very end, creating an appealing effect where the top of his body drags behind his lower torso, breathing life into the motion. Who knew an armored knight could be so flexible? When it comes to animating BraveHurts, our process is built to bring 2D appeal to 3D animation, using these tools and more to emphasize clear, snappy posing over overly smoothed out, mushy actions. In another short, Clink yanks on the rope of the catapult into holding one iconic silhouette. The Forester's animation is limited on purpose as he leaps into the tower. All our attention goes right to his facial expression as he reacts to the dead princess. For fine details, our 3D tools allow us to add subtle follow-through and visual variety to their clothing, hair, and armor movements on top of those simple, clear poses. This only scratches the surface of the many ways that 3D artists can apply these universal animation principles to our work, using the tools and techniques available to us. As different as they look, we share a ton of concepts in common with our friends over in 2D, and we'd be happy to tell you more about them. Let us know in the comments what you want to hear more about, be it technical, conceptual, or something in between. This has been Alex McKenzie from Make Studio. Thanks for checking out BraveHurts with me, and we will see you on the battlefield.